Hello, I'm Femi OK and you're in the stream. Today, India is being cut up again. How will the creation of a new Telangana state impact the country? Our digital producer Malika Bilal is here looking out for your live feedback. Malika, we have been inundated. What is happening with India? It's supposed to be asleep right now.
No, they are online and they have opinions and they're sharing them.
Yeah.
So we first noticed the word Telangana trending across India here on this trends map after the ruling Congress party endorsed the bid for statehood July 30th. And of course, the conversation online ever since has been fascinating to watch. So we want to hear from all of you, whether you're in India, outside of it, join the conversation. Just make sure you use the hashtag AJStream.
Now, we can't have this conversation about India without Sandanan Dume. He's in all of our conversations about India. Sandanan is a resident fellow at the American Enterprise Institute and a columnist for the Wall Street Journal. It's great to have you back on the stream.
Always a pleasure.
Now, do you follow us online?
I am about to.
You follow Lisa Fletcher. It's okay. I don't mind. And you're going to be following us soon as well. I have to say...
Expect to follow back.
Yes, of course I will. Shameless. Now, don't forget, there are so many ways of you to be part of the stream and to follow us. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram and, of course, like us on Facebook. And I'm on Facebook right now. Seriously, I am. And you can like us here, just push that button there. You can tell us what stories are making news in your part of the world, and your comments and questions can be part of a future program.
Hello, my name is Yoon Lee, and I'm a journalist and editor at Global Voices, and I'm in the stream.
India's ruling Congress party has just approved the partitioning of Andhra Pradesh. For decades, people in the poorer western part of the state have campaigned for this move because they feel that they've been neglected by the government. Telangana will be home to 36 million people. That's bigger than the population of Canada or the population of Saudi Arabia or the population of Taiwan. You're getting the idea. And it's about physically the size of the US state of Kentucky. Supporters of the new state say that having their own political system will help develop the region's economy and improve lives. Now, this isn't the first time that new states have been created in modern India. Since the announcement of the latest edition, ethnic separatists in the northeastern state of Assam have rioted several times, while in West Bengal, Gurkhaland activists are calling for a 1,000-day strike in support of their own homeland. So, what is the basis for a political state? And in Telangana's case, is this another step further away from the original concept of India, a mother state meant to encompass diversity? Joining us from Hyderabad in India is Shravan Dasaju. He's the spokesperson for the Telangana Rashtra Samiti party, which has been actively involved in the state's formation process. In our Google Plus Hangout from New Delhi, blogger Atulya Mahajan. And from Singapore, journalist Harsh Gupta. It's great, gentlemen, to have all of you in the stream. I'm going to start, though, with Dr. Shravan, first of all. Dr. Shravan, when did you start working for the state of Telangana to actually be created? How long have you been working on this?
I've been with Telangana Rashtra Samiti for the last 4 years. An activist for Telangana agitation, part of the Politburo of Telangana Rashtra Samiti. And also a member of steering committee of Telangana Joint Action Committee, sort of a federation, a forum that represents almost all the people organizations and a few political parties of Telangana region.
Right, and explain to our international audience why you care so much. Why is it so important? You're already part of a big state. Why did you want to have your own state?
Probably big is beautiful, some time back, but I think world over, I think what we are talking about is small is beautiful, for the simple fact of decentralization, accessibility of governance, and effective delivery of fruits of democracy, so on and so forth. Now, I wanted to place one thing on record, that asking for a separate state in India is not anti-constitutional or anti-democracy.
Right.
It is pretty much part of Indian Constitution. And Ambedkar, who's the founder of the father of Indian Constitution, has pretty much incorporated a provision called Article 3, under which, the people can demand for a statehood. The question comes whether the statehood demand is a tenable demand. What are the merits, demerits? These are the issues that we need to look at. And third point that I wanted to bring into your kind notice, we are not asking for a new state. We are asking for a demerger of our state. The second is, you mentioned a big state. From a big state, why do you want to become a small state? We are not a small state even if Telangana is completely formed.
Dr. Shravan?
We will be larger than Bengal, we will be larger than Haryana, we will be larger than Gujarat.
Okay, Dr. Shravan. Dr. Shravan, we have 3 other guests who would like to discuss this with you, so I'm going to open up that conversation. Sandanand, Dr. Shravan's worked for 40 years on this, so he's devoted a big chunk of his life to getting his own state. What's your reaction to that?
I mean, with due respect, I think I agree with him that it's perfectly constitutional to strive for their own state. I just happen to think that this particular state is not a very good idea. You've seen since the announcement, Andhra Pradesh, which is India's second largest economy, second largest state economy, has been in turmoil, virtually paralyzed in large parts of the state. There are people on the streets, they're vandalizing statues, they're burning buses. The state is essentially, economic life is grinding to a halt. The problem is not with smaller states. The problem is, does this particular state, with Hyderabad, one of India's most important cities, in it, make sense? And I argue in my Wall Street Journal piece that this particular state, in its proposed configuration, does not make sense.
Why does it not make sense?
In large part because you have to look back at the history of Hyderabad, which is one of India's most important cities. It's its 5th largest city in terms of GDP output. And over the last 15 years, Hyderabad has transformed itself from this sleepy backwater to this IT hub and international center of commerce. Much of that energy comes from people from the rest of Andhra. And now these people are suddenly being told, you're outsiders, you don't belong. You're less, you belong here less than someone else. Imagine someone doing that in New York or London or anywhere else. It's just not a very good idea.
Malika?
So you say it's not a good idea. Dr. Shravan said small is beautiful. And what I'm pulling up here, Harsh, I want you to get on this, is people asking why now? Curious says it is opportunism, but Telangana's time has come. Hamid says it's not the better governance for which smaller states are being demanded in India. It's for regional aspiration in a federation. So Harsh, I want you to weigh in here. Why is it now? Is it political reasons? Is it because the elections next year? Why?
Well, the immediate reason is definitely political. The Congress party is not doing well in the Andhra Pradesh state, and it is betting that by getting Telangana at least, it will get those seats, I think 17 out of 42, as opposed to perhaps not even reaching double digits. So obviously it's opportunistic, obviously it's political, but that's how a lot of states are created in India. Even Andhra Pradesh itself was created out of quote-unquote blackmail by activists who burned themselves, set themselves on fire. No state has an easy genesis. It is messy, it is political, it is parochial. The idea is whether the final destination of smaller, more states is something we want or not.
What's your take on that? Does India want smaller, more manageable states?
I mean, research by economists Vivek Debroy and Lavish Bhandari shows that on general, smaller states perform better. I do agree with Sadanand that some kind of very parochial passions have been invoked, saying that people from other parts of the state would not be allowed to work there. But then that's said occasionally in Bombay, Mumbai, it's also said in Bangalore. That's not really stopped these cities from becoming commercial centers. Anyway, the comment was more about government employees, and I think with due course of time, anybody who wants to go and work in Hyderabad, even if in Telangana, that will be sorted out.
Okay, I have a map back here which is fascinating. It's a help me out here.
Chronological.
Thank you, Malika. Yes, it's that from 1947 to 2013, so this year. So this is how India looked in 1947. Watch very carefully what happens with how many states have grown and developed since then. That's pretty impressive. It looks like the states are growing and becoming smaller. So Dr. Shravan, I know you wanted to jump back into the conversation. What do you want to add?
You know, I think both my, particularly Mr. Sadanand Dume and the other gentleman, I guess, Mr. Harsha Gupta, I guess, who spoke last, and also for the benefit of the international, viewers of this program, I would like to mention that probably even in the article written by Mr. Sadanand, it lacks a lot of historical understanding of Telangana and also the agitation. One has to understand that it is an agitation that is being continued for the last 56 or 57 years. It is not an agitation that has come up just like that or last 4 years, 5 years or 10 years. It is a 56-year-old demand. Number one. Number two.
Let Santanan deal with number one, because otherwise we're not having a conversation, Dr. Shravan.
I think that's a partial truth. Let me answer your point, and then you can jump in with the next one. It's a partial truth. It's true that there was a demand for Telangana in the late 1960s, but for much of the last 56 years, it has been more or less dormant. And if you look at the electoral history of Andhra Pradesh, the people of this region, which is Telangana, have very often, most often in fact, voted just like the other parts of the state. And Mr. Shravan's own party, the TRS, took a drubbing in 2009, was clearly rejected by the voters. And so this idea that this is some long-standing, deep-rooted movement simply doesn't square with the facts.
Dr. Shravan.
Mr. Sadanand is jumping up on issues. I was talking about it's a 56-year-old history, and then he's saying it's partly truthful, and then also linking up with the 2009 elections. Now this one has to know that India got independence in 1947, August 15th. I'm sure all the international viewers and the panelists out here also are aware, but I'm sure they are not aware that Telangana has got the independence in the year 1948 September. That means after 13 months of India got independence, Telangana got the independence, Hyderabad state got the independence. We remained as a separate country much after India got the independence. This is one historical fact that I guess everybody has to make a note. The second is from 48 to 1956, Telangana remained as a separate state. And in 56, there was in 1953, first state reorganization committee headed by Mr. Fazal Ali was appointed. Much against the will and wishes of the Telangana people, much against the recommendations of Fazal Ali, the state was forcibly merged in the name of forming a large linguistic state.
Dr. Shravan, let me just nudge you along with this point a little bit, because we have time constraints in this conversation. So what I want to just jump ahead and say, Dr. Shravan, for the benefit of our audiences, but the point Dr. Shravan is trying to make is that Telangana actually existed as a state previously, and so it's not the same as making another smaller state of a state that's already been there. It already existed as a state, so they're just going back to how it used to be. Now, Dr. Shravan, we have to share this conversation, and I insist that we do. So let me bring in Malika and the community. We will come back to you, I promise that.
Well, Femi, the point that you were reiterating, that Dr. Shravan, the point that you were just making, someone on Twitter completely agrees with you. Shona says Telangana people were not getting their money, and facilities even got allotted for them. It was sort of a freedom fight. But of course, on the other hand, Atulya, I'm going to direct this one to you. Sadullah says new states just provide new mediums for new divisions and new conflicts. So the answer in this case, Sadullah says, was better governance, not a new state. Weigh in there.
In the case of Telangana, one important fact to consider is right now the state of Andhra Pradesh has 13 backward districts, out of which 9 are in Telangana, and that's the point that is being raised, that the people of Telangana have not got their due after they got merged with Andhra to create this bigger state. And that's what's led to this conflict over the last many years, and that's the reason why they want kind of separation, and they want their own state so that they can better govern their destiny, so to say, and they get more jobs, they get more economic resources, they get more development, and that's the whole thing. And in fact, even looking at the historical perspective, when this merger was done initially, Jawaharlal Nehru, who was the Prime Minister of India at that time, he's quoted as having said that he compared the merger to a matrimonial alliance having provisions for a divorce, because at that time there was some provisions made that the people of Telangana will get these things along with the merger, like some privileges, but that didn't happen.
I think we can spend all our time talking about 1953 and 1956 and 1948, but let's just think about this moving ahead. If we are all agreed that small states are a good idea, including Dr. Shravan, then why not break Andhra Pradesh into 3 parts? Why not have Andhra Pradesh as what remains? Why not have Hyderabad as a separate city, a city-state that governs itself? And then why not have what's left with these poorer districts that want self-administration to go into Telangana? So if everyone likes the idea of small is beautiful, Why not 3 parts? Why not 3 parts with Hyderabad as a union territory or as an autonomous city-state?
Sounds like a mischievous question. What's
It's
your
a
answer?
perfectly practical question.
it-
It is a very good idea, but
I
but the reason that these Telangana statehood activists disagree with it is that they want to, the same principle that they apply, which is that smaller states are good, they
Right.
don't apply when it comes to allowing Hyderabad to go its own way.
Okay. Dr. Shravan,
I wanted to make one point,
please
Either
do.
a state or a state capital is not meant for, not just meant for the contractors or the capitalists, but essentially a state or a state capital is meant for effective delivery of the public distribution system, effective governance, and providing social, political, and economic justice to the entire population. That is one thing that we have to realize. Second is Mr. Sadanand was refused to understand the history, and then he says we should not get to 1953. And then he says, Hyderabad, why can't we look at it as a separate state? That is where exactly I'm saying that one has to understand the history before making any conclusions. Hyderabad has been a 400-old years history and part of Telangana. You have to understand that. And Hyderabad, and in fact, in your article, Mr. Sadanand, I felt very, rather felt unhappy or sad, rather I would say, that the Hyderabad has. You have to realize that early 1900, Hyderabad was the 4th largest city of the country and a cosmopolitan city of the
Dr.
country.
Shravan.
And today it is the fifth largest.
Dr. Shravan, I'm going to pause this part of the conversation only because there's a lot of different things that I would like to do before the end, and we're hurtling towards the end. I know that you, Sadanand, and I know that Dr. Shravan, you have each other's Twitter handles. I feel that this is a conversation that we would all love to be involved in. Just add us at AJ Stream, and we will watch it from a distance. So let's move on here. There's something called the Telangana effect. It's fascinating. It's about how many other separatist movements were actually encouraged by what happened to Telangana when it became a state. So on my laptop, I've got some of the other separatist movements that are around. On Malika's laptop, she has something a lot more fun and a kind of fun way of looking at the Telangana effect. Would you show your laptop,
I
please?
will. And before I get to the very fun one, Samir has a fun tweet. Samir Khan says, what's right for the goose is right for the gander. If Telangana is reality, then what's wrong with Gorkaland? And he mentions a couple of others that I will not even try to botch their pronunciations, but I want to show this cartoon. This one shows Telangana being nursed while others are neglected in the background.
It's very cute.
I mean, can I just speak here once?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I feel that Sadanand saying that Hyderabad should be its own union territory has absolutely no precedent in India, because Chandigarh is the joint capital and precedent of 2 states, Punjab and Haryana, because it is literally in the middle of it, whereas Hyderabad would be entirely surrounded by Telangana region. So to say that Telangana would somehow botch up Hyderabad is a bit condescending. And secondly, let's get back to
it also happens to be true.
I don't think there's any reason to believe that. We'll have
Plenty
to actually
of reason.
see that. 85 million people is what the Andhra Pradesh state is. It's about the size of Germany, much bigger than the UK, which is 4 countries itself.
So break it up into many parts then.
And yes, you can break it into 3 states, but not Hyderabad as a separate city. That has no precedent in India, except the Delhi National Capital Region,
Which is a good precedent.
which is a different reason, or the Chandigarh city, which is shared by Punjab and Haryana. There is absolutely no precedent to it, and a state like Telangana would deserve its own capital, and the most natural contender for that is Hyderabad.
Well, Harsh, you very cleverly changed the subject from the other separatist movement to Hyderabad, but I have a great tweet that bridges those both together. Sudan Akhilesh says, it's interesting to see that you opposed to Telangana for primary reason of Hyderabad. For one city, others should not aspire, he asks.
I have no problem with people aspiring. I'm just saying that you should take current economic realities into account. What's going to happen over here is that the state is going to be roiled in protests. Investors are not going to go to Hyderabad. Many people from the rest of Andhra Pradesh who have been key in Hyderabad reaching where it is are suddenly going to be treated like second-class citizens. It's just a sort of it's a recipe for economic disaster. I'm all for smaller states. So the way to create smaller states is break it up. The fact that there hasn't been a precedent is really not the most to me not the most important. Is not a clinching argument. You've got to have a better argument than, oh, but we haven't done that before. So what if we haven't done it before?
When Gujarat and Maharashtra were separated in 1960, a lot of people felt that Gujaratis would be discriminated against in Mumbai, what was then Bombay.
And what happened?
And indeed, many parties did that, but Gujaratis continue to strive there. Bombay is a good city for commerce, and Gujarat has many great cities for commerce. I really think this is a bit too much ado about nothing. It's going to be perfectly fine. This is no state in India when there is ethnic subnationalism, when there is some kind of regional nationalism, is ever going to be created with some kind of clean, guardian elite, benevolent kind of sweep. It will always be messy, and this is what we are seeing.
All right, Harsh, take a pause. Atulya, I'm missing you. Jump back into the conversation. I am concerned about Mother India. Back in 1947, the whole idea was to actually make all of the various different ethnic groups, the different languages, the different cultures, all come together under one amazing country. What's happening to that if we have separatist movements?
It's actually not separatist movements, but the thing with India is the way we split up our states is based on languages. And India is a very unique country in the sense that we have just so many languages and so many different cultures within the country. So right now, what we have is we have a set of states which most of whom have their own languages and cultures, and that seems to work fine. But the problem is where you have states which are formed on the basis of some language, but there are some communities in those states that don't really kind of belong to that.
Okay.
Who don't speak that language, maybe.
Okay.
Or who not from that culture.
All right, Dr.
And
Shravan.
they are the ones.
All right, Atulya, let me just go back to Dr. Shravan. I didn't ask you at the beginning of this program how you felt. You spent 40 years working for Telangana to be a state. It's going to be a state. I didn't ask you how you felt about it.
So it's certainly a moment of delight for all the Telanganaites, and I think last 56 years as someone who came into, said that, we've been deprived of jobs, we've been deprived of water, we have been suppressed culturally, politically, economically. I think it's certainly a liberation for us, and surely it's going to give a new path of development for the Telangana, and certainly would contribute to the overall country's growth, because Telangana has potential to become one of the most vibrant economies of the country, like Gujarat. I don't know, Mr. Sadanand seemed to be pretty much worried about Hyderabad, Telangana economy. I just want to give some records, some data
So Dr. Shravan, do you know the perfect place for data? And that's in the post show at stream.aljazeera.com. So hold on to your data. I can't wait to hear it. But in the meantime, let's go back to the community. Why are you laughing?
Well, Dr. Shravan was expressing his happiness, but amid that, there are some questions. And so this is another tease for the post show.
Right,
how will democratic rights of non-Telangana settlers be protected after the division of the state?
Wow, that is a good question. It just goes to show this is an open question that won't get answered, gentlemen, until the post show, because we are running out of time in this show. So I know that we'll be going to stream.aljazeera.com. In the meantime, though, I want to go to Sandanand. You have been noted as being, by Foreign Policy, one of the 100 Twitter feeds you need to follow. What kind of action have you been getting on your Twitter feed for this discussion?
Well, it's been really interesting. I'm basically getting a barrage of tweets from Telangana activists telling me how little they care about my opinion. And I was just sort of amused, and I was thinking, if this is, well, I mean, I get it, but I mean, maybe you can find a better way to tell me that you don't care than by bombarding me on Twitter and sending me all kinds of emails about how I have no right to have an opinion on Telangana.
I see Harsh laughing. I think I hear Dr. Shravan laughing all the way out there in Hyderabad as well. So, this conversation, it's not done yet. Plenty of energy left in here. But I have to tell you about Wednesday's program. We'll be joined by the man who's made Jesus headline news recently. Author Reza Aslan will be in the stream to discuss his latest book, Zealot, and why he's received so much backlash. we haven't finished all of our interview questions yet, so if you have a good one for us, send it to us at #AJStream. Stay with us. More from India in the post show at stream.aljazeera.com. You know where we will be online. Thanks for watching. Hello again, welcome back to the online post show. Today we're discussing India's newest state, Telangana, and what it means for other regional separatist movements. Let's get right back to the conversation. I was very mean to you. Dr. Shravan, he had data he wanted to share, and I stopped him. But Dr. Shravan?
No,
we would love to hear from you now.
Sadanand was concerned about the sustenance of Telangana and its economy. I just wanted to tell him that probably we'll be much better in terms of economy, in terms of industrial growth than Andhra if the Telangana state is formed. Just a quick
but
thing,
be kind to us, Dr. Shravan, because we're not all in India and we don't know all of the context, so make it make sense for all of us.
That's what I'm telling, you know.
Good.
The Telangana generates about 62% of the revenues, and expenditure that is made on Telangana is about 33%, whereas Andhra region generates about 38% and the expenditure is about 37%. Now, is that not an exploitation of Telangana region is what I wanted to ask Mr. Sadanand. Now, the point is that, you know, we are going to have, once Telangana state is formed, you know, we will have about out of 152 crores of revenue of the entire Andhra Pradesh.
Okay, Dr. Shravan, I really would like Sandanan to answer you, otherwise we're not having a conversation.
I wanted to say one thing, that you know, how about the happiness of other region people residing in Hyderabad? One thing one has to understand, you know, we are not after all becoming a Pakistan or a Bangladesh. We are after all a state abided by the Indian Parliament and Indian Constitution.
Okay, Dr. Shravan, please pause there so we can actually have the conversation.
You know, I think the part that he is not mentioning is that, you know, if you look at one of the most interesting things that has happened in Hyderabad over the last 15 years is the emergence, particularly over the last 15 years, but even longer, is the emergence of these really dynamic businessmen who have grown these businesses that are not only, many of them are headquartered in Hyderabad, but that are then branched out around the world. People like the GVK group, they're building airports in Indonesia, they're based in Hyderabad. The GMR group, which is now based in Bangalore, came out of Andhra Pradesh. There are many of India's biggest companies. So let me just sum this up.
No, just about Hyderabad, because I think for a global audience, we should know it's the Silicon Valley.
It's one of, along with Bangalore. Apart from Bangalore, it's the other city that's really associated with technology.
It's so important.
And so Dell has invested there, Microsoft has invested there, Google has invested there, and so on.
Yeah.
But a lot of the entrepreneurial energy come from people who've plowed their agricultural surpluses, they're in the coast, and moved into business and built this city. Now those are the people who these guys are saying, they're calling them settlers. They're calling them outsiders. What does that do to the investment climate in a state? What kind of message are you sending these people who ought to be celebrated for helping make Hyderabad a prosperous state? Why call them settlers? Why call them outsiders? They didn't know. Many of them have been born there. Many of them have come to what was always part of Andhra Pradesh.
Can I interrupt Mr. Sadanand?
You have. Go ahead.
I think Mr. Sadanand has made a mention in his article as outsiders, but I don't think anybody in Telangana has probably said that they are outsiders. You know, we are pretty much saying the spirit of Telangana agitation is that we might divide geographically, but as Telugu people, we will continue to live together, is what the spirit
What
of
do you mean by the term
movement.
settler then? What does the word settler connote to you?
You are quoting that, Mr. Sadanand, and you made such kind of sweeping remarks in this entire article, Sadanandji. I mean, I don't know how you got this kind of conclusions. From the start, Mr. Rao tactics have involved blackmail and intimidation, and you continue to go on saying that in 2009 he went on hunger strike. You mean to say that to go on a hunger strike is blackmail and intimidation? That means, Gandhi also has blackmailed Britishers there in that case.
There's certainly an element of blackmail and intimidation.
Remarks you are making, and you are only quoting GVK, you are only quoting Dr. Reddy's, but you forgot to make a mention about Wipro, a Marwadi company, Infosys, a Kannadiga company, a Microsoft, an Accenture, a Google, a Facebook. Why are you only worried about the investors from Andhra? Now,
you should be worried about all investors.
Andhra, you have to worry about the entire investors range coming from all over the world.
And gentlemen, I am calling time out right now. Sanjanan, that article, you are so in trouble for that article. Okay.
I'm not going to be given Telangana residency.
All right, I'm calling time out, but gentlemen, please, it's very early in the morning in India.
I will take you personally, take you around. I'm sure you will be more empathetic to Telangana than the article that you have written.
All right.
Dr.
Shravan, I understand that. We're going to move on. Hush.
A broader problem in India whereby people from different states are discriminated against in other states. So North Indians somehow feel discriminated in South India, vice versa. People from rest of the country feel discriminated in Bombay because of Shiv Sena and MNS. So I really think that this is a broader issue, and to conflate that with the formation of Telangana is somehow wrong, because when Hyderabad will be formed, these settler arguments are mostly for government employees. No matter what the rhetoric is, there is no way some people can be kicked out. Yes, initially investment climate would dip down, but if fundamentally the state is a good investment, you have to look at it over the period of 10, 15, 20 years, not over 1 or 2 years. In fact, the last 5-7 years, Sadanand is absolutely right. Hyderabad real estate property prices have lagged the rest of the country because of this, Damocles sword hanging over the region. But now that it is being settled, what is more important is clarity. If it is sure that after 10 years, this will be entirely Telangana's, investors are okay with it. Investors are not okay with uncertainty. I think that's a slightly different point.
So Harsh, I don't have that much clarity at the end of this conversation. Can you help me get some?
Yeah, sure. So basically the fundamental point is there are 85 million people living in this one state, which is huge by any standards. And if for the last 50-60 years, sometimes more, sometimes less, if people in one geographically coherent region want to separate, I don't see personally any reason why that should not happen.
Okay.
And to use terms like partition for states who simply want to remain within India is to evoke of memories which connote something entirely different. This is simply an administrative reorganization. There will be a local elite created. There are obviously all kinds of political economy reasons. But over the long run, if we say no to Telangana, we'll have to say we'll probably be slowing down the creation of smaller states elsewhere as well.
Okay, Malika.
We started this conversation. One of the questions that we asked is, why now? Is this a political reason? We got a great Facebook comment from Lalu who says, India's Congress Party is often said to do the right things for the wrong reason. Statehood for Telangana is a hugely popular demand, but the ruling party has granted it purely out of election calculations for the fast approaching national elections. So, Sadhana, take us forward into perhaps May 2014 when there might be potential elections. What are we looking at? So,
the bet over here, Andhra Pradesh it's enormously important. It has 42 seats in parliament. This is the third largest number of seats for any state from India. 33 of the Congress's current 206 seats come from this one state. So it's the most important state politically to the ruling party. All polls show that they're in deep trouble. Now what they're trying to do is that they're decided that by breaking up the state, by creating this separate state called Telangana, out of gratitude, the people in that roughly 40% of the state will vote for them or vote for their allies. So what they're trying to do is to say that, well, if we didn't do this, we'd be wiped out in the whole state, in all 42. If we do this, we could do really well in 17 out of the 42, and we don't care if we were anyway going to lose the rest. So that's why they're doing this. So it's nakedly political. I buy the argument that you shouldn't oppose something just because it happens to be nakedly political. You could be doing the right thing for the wrong reason. But I think that in this case, it actually complicates things. It raises questions about their sincerity, and it raises questions about whether this is really the best way to go about it. And these are very complex emotive issues. How you go about it matters.
It sounds like what you're saying is that AJ Stream needs to do a show in May 2014.
You certainly do.
He is Sandanan Dume. If you want to check out his article, the article that made our other guests so upset, it's on my computer. It's the Wall Street Journal, and it's the Hyderabad Blues is the name of the actual article, and you can read what made Dr. Shravan Dasaju so upset. Dr. Dasaju, we are glad that we had you on the program. Also, Atalia Mahajan, thank you very much for being part of this discussion, and Harsh Gupta as well. It was certainly energetic. You can't believe that it's very early in the morning in India right now. I'm so impressed. What are we going to do tomorrow? Well, on Wednesday, we will be joined by the man who's made Jesus headline news recently. Author Reza Aslan will be in the stream to discuss his latest book, Zealot. Have you read it, Malika?
I have read it.
She's such a goody two-shoes. I'm still in the middle of it. I have many hours to go before I have to do the interview. But if you've got some good questions for us, well, tweet us. And tweet us at #AJStream, and your questions could be potentially in the show. Help me with my homework. Right now, though, you know where we will be. We'll be at stream.outerzero.com, always online. Thanks for watching.